Welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom, and today I'm taking a look at Samanea Mall, New York, or as it used to be called, the Mall at the Source in Westbury, New York. Based upon what I saw, in my opinion, this mall seems to be dead or dying at the very least, but come along with me and let me know what you think. And don't forget, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell. I've got a lot more mall videos coming up, as well as store walkthroughs, flea markets, and who knows what else. And if you really want to help support the channel, please check out my Patreon, which is also called Flea Bitten Adventures. Thanks. So the first thing you notice when you enter this mall is all this artwork, which is pretty impressive, I have to say. It's some nice art, and there's a lot of it. It just keeps going and going, and it almost makes the mall feel like more like an art museum at some points than a mall, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just different, I would say. The other thing I noticed was, especially a little bit later coming up here, is the sound of the ventilation system, or the AC. They must have had the fan turned up all the way. I wouldn't say that the AC was turned up all the way though, because it wasn't particularly cool in here. It was something like 90, 95 degrees outside, and it was cooler in here, but by no means would I say the mall was cool. It was a bit on the toasty side, so I'm not sure if something's going on with the ventilation system. And also, you know, there are still businesses here, of course, as you can see, but there are large stretches of the mall that are completely vacant, and they feel more like an abandoned mall than a dead mall. It gets pretty creepy at some point, so stay tuned for that. As for what used to be here, straight ahead, I believe that used to be an Old Navy at one point. Obviously that was P.F. Chang's, and then to the right, the store we just passed, that's the Bloomingdale's today, that was Nordstrom Rack at one point. And then after that, it was a Lord & Taylor outlet store for a very short period of time. Alright, so now some history on the mall. This mall was developed by Fortunoff, the furniture company, and Simon Property Group. It opened in 1997 and was managed by Simon until 2012. The mall was initially a success and continued to be successful until roughly sometime in the mid-2000s, I think. Part of the reason for the mall's initial success was that it had the distinction of having the first Old Navy, Saks off 5th, Nordstrom Rack, and H&M on Long Island, as well as Long Island's first P.F. Chang's, Rainforest Cafe, Dave & Buster's, and the Cheesecake Factory. And today, only the Cheesecake Factory and Dave & Buster's remain. And this is very obviously a piano store of some sort. I didn't see a name on it though. And then straight ahead, this is Fortunoff Backyard Store, which is an offshoot of Fortunoff. The main Fortunoff store went out of business back in 2009, and from what I understand, the Fortunoff brand was purchased by some of the family members that owned the original Fortunoff and some other people, and then they opened the Fortunoff Backyard Store. Before that was the Fortunoff Backyard Store. That's where Steve & Barry's was located up until 2009. And to the left, there actually used to be a carousel there. I'm not sure when the carousel was removed, but this is what it looked like back in 2012. So as I mentioned, by the mid-2000s or so, the mall was definitely starting to struggle, but if I had to set a date for when the mall went past the point of no return, I would say that was 2009. In 2009, the mall lost all three of its anchor stores, Fortunoff's, Steve & Barry's, and Circuit City, and then due to the loss of those anchors, foot traffic at the mall decreased, and the mall started to lose even more stores. Eventually, they lost Forever 21, Saks off 5th, Nordstrom Rack, and honestly pretty much every other store. There were a few reasons for the mall's downfall, but one major reason was competition from the nearby Roosevelt Field Mall, which I also filmed during this trip. And it's only about a mile away, and it's also owned by Simon Property Group. So because Roosevelt Field Mall was far more successful and profitable than this mall, Simon, not surprisingly, put most of their time and attention into Roosevelt Field Mall. And this mall seems to have become an afterthought, honestly. Another likely reason for the mall's downfall was the oversaturation of other retail centers in the area. When the mall first opened, there was nowhere near as much retail competition in the area as there was even just a few years later. From what I've read, by the time this mall started to really lose tenants, especially the anchor stores, There were really no other major retailers to take their place, as those other major retailers already had stores at Roosevelt Field or other nearby retail centers like the Gallery at Westbury Plaza, which opened in 2012. In fact, Old Navy, Nordstrom Rack, and Saks Off Fifth all eventually moved to the Gallery at Westbury Plaza. As a result of the mall's ever-increasing vacancies and loss of customers, the mall's owners were unable to keep up with the payments, and the mall was foreclosed on in February of 2012. At the time, the mall was valued at $51 million, but the mall owners still owed between $142 and $148 million on the loan. So the mall was put up for auction later that year with an asking price of $148 million, which was the outstanding debt on the property at the time. However, the highest bid received was just $20 million. Therefore, the lenders, referred to only as, quote, European Pension Fund, took ownership of the mall later in 2012, and Newmark, Grubb, Knight, and Frank were hired to manage the mall. And at that point, the mall was roughly 50 to 75% vacant, from what I understand. Straight ahead, this used to be David's Bridal. Not entirely sure when that closed. And then straight ahead, I'm honestly not sure what that is, but that used to be Golf Galaxy up until 2014. And then on the right here, where David's Bridal used to be, is now X Golf, which I think is like golf simulators. Like straight ahead, that's one of the golf simulators. And then this is the lower level of the old Fortunovs, which closed in 2009. Now, in 2016, it was announced that the mall would be sold and possibly demolished. Luckily, that didn't happen, though. The next year in 2017, the mall's current owners, Lesso Mall Development Long Island, Inc., purchased the mall for $92 million. They announced that they were going to redevelop the mall into a so-called decoration hub for Lesso Home. And I'm honestly not entirely sure what a decoration hub is, but it seems to be focused on home furnishings and home design. And as a result, today the mall does have a lot of furniture and home furnishing type stores. This new decoration hub was originally supposed to open in 2018 and was apparently going to be called Lesso Home New York Market. However, the renovations, which cost about $30 million, didn't begin until 2019, and for some reason, the name of the new development was changed to Samanea Mall, New York. It's a bit unclear to me what renovations were done on the mall other than adding the new Samanea Mall signs. If there were other renovations done, they weren't obvious to me. So if anybody knows what other renovations were done to this mall other than adding the new signs, please let me know in the comments. And as you might have guessed, this is the part of the mall I was talking about that's almost completely vacant. It reminds me a lot of the Monmouth Mall when I visited it, and also Exton Square Mall, which I visited earlier this year. And straight ahead, that's the upper level of the old Fortunovs, which again has been closed since 2009. And that place on the right with the columns that kind of looks like a cheesecake factory used to be a kebab restaurant, but I'm not sure what it was called or when it closed. Today the mall seems to be heavily focused on furniture type stores as well as entertainment businesses. So they've got a Dave & Buster's, there's the Empire Adventure Park, the Gravity Vault, which is an indoor rock wall type thing. They've got a bunch of pickleball courts, similar things to that. They have, X Golf, so a lot of entertainment type options. And they also have a lot of mom and pop type stores, which seem to have unusual hours. A lot of them seem to be only open on the weekends, from what I could tell. And then straight ahead, this is an escape room. And I really like these posters. Pretty cool. For a second, I thought it was a movie theater, but no, it's an escape room. And I guess those are the various scenarios you can escape from. But as far as what's going to happen with this mall in the future, I'm a little bit unclear on it. Because again, their website indicates that they're revitalizing it, refurbishing it into this mixed-use facility, but it's been like this for at least 5 years now. I mean, they have added a few more of those entertainment businesses since then, but overall, it's looked like this for, at least 5 years, if not quite a bit longer than that. So I'm really not sure what their ultimate plan is here. Now, I did find a map of this mall online, which indicated that where the old Fortunovs used to be has been leased for residential units. but I wasn't really able to find much more on that online, so I'm not sure if they do still plan to add residential units here or not. And of course there's a spa or a massage parlor here. You seem to see a lot of those in, dead and dying malls for some reason. And then coming up on the right here, this very clearly used to be a Bath and Body Works. And then on the left, this is the Cheesecake Factory, and believe it or not, it is still open. I didn't try to the door, so I'm not sure if you can still enter through the mall here, but as far as I know, you can. There wasn't anything saying the door was locked or anything. Here's one of the furniture stores I was talking about. This is Leonardo Furniture. And I would assume there was an anchor store in there at one point, or a junior anchor, but I don't know which one. If anybody knows, of course, let me know in the comments. And this would have been Center Court. The court we came from, I think, was referred to as the Fortunov Court. And then there's one more court to go coming up towards the end. And this is the part of the mall I entered first with the Fortunov backyard store. The carousel used to be located directly below us. Straight ahead where New York Axe is today, I think that's where the Rainforest Cafe was located until it closed in 2000. It was replaced by H&M in 2001, and I'm not entirely sure when the H&M closed or when this axe throwing place opened, but I think it opened within the last year or two. Up ahead, that's the Gravity Vault. That opened very recently, back in I think December of 2024. And it's, as you can see, a rock climbing gym thing. And that is where the food court used to be. The food court was there as recently as just a couple years ago, I think. I did see some videos where the food court was still there. It was closed, but all the restaurants were still there. Today, there's just a tiny sliver of the old food court left, and we'll take a look at that in just a couple seconds. I was looking for expiration dates on these drinks, but I couldn't see any. And here's all that's left of the food court. Now, when I was at the mall, I could have sworn that all of these restaurants were out of business, but according to this sign, it says Grand Opening Gretel and Sons Soul Food. It's this restaurant here to the left of Walk Express. I looked it up on Instagram, and apparently they're still in business. It says they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, which is when I filmed this, but they are open Wednesday through Sunday. And I don't know if any of the other restaurants in here are still open, but they sure don't look it. But again, if I'm wrong about any of this, please let me know in the comments. Here's another one of those businesses where I honestly can't tell if they are still in business. I think they may be, but it's really hard to tell. So if you're from this area, or especially if you know this mall, please let me know which of these stores are still open. And also what used to be in these stores. Because there really wasn't that much information online about what used to be here. Now, I'm pretty sure this store is still in business. It sure looks like it. It's just one of those that has those strange hours where I think they're only open later in the week, or possibly just the weekends. And then here's all the pickleball courts. There are actually, I think, 3 of them, and that's probably because they're in these small stores. Usually when I see these pickleball courts, they're in one of the old anchors, but because they're in these smaller stores, they had to take up 3 of them. At least 3 of them. There might be more in here. I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah, actually maybe 4. Because then they have Smash It table tennis on the right. And we've got double tap laser range shooting simulation on the left here. Yeah, so this whole stretch of the mall is almost entirely just entertainment type stuff. Except for this. This is a store of some sort. But it's also closed for the day. Again, it seems like they have hours later in the week. And then straight ahead where Empire Adventure Park is today, that's where Saxaw 5th used to be until about 2012, I think. That's when they closed. Don't know what, if anything, was in there after that, though. And also, I think they used to call this the Saxaw 5th Court. This is the Museum of Urban Arts, and I could be wrong, but it looks like they're probably responsible for a lot of the artwork around this mall. Or at least their art looks very similar to the rest of the art I saw. All right, so on the first floor on the left here, where the 99 Ranch Market is today, that used to be Circuit City, which closed in 2009. Not sure if there was anything in there after that, though. And then on the right is Dave & Buster's, which I think was originally a store called ABC, which I'm not familiar with. It was then replaced by Jillian's, another store I'm not familiar with, and then finally Dave & Buster's. And we'll do a walkthrough of the Dave & Buster's in just a minute. Here's the 99 Ranch Market. It opened in 2022, and it's apparently the largest Asian grocery chain in the U.S. Alright, so let's take a quick walk through of the Dave & Buster's. And luckily I wasn't here to play any games because there must have been like 5 or more busloads full of kids here, probably from a camp, I'm guessing, like a summer camp, because it's too late in the year for school. But yeah, it was just packed wall to wall with kids running around. So again, if I were here to play games, I'd be a little disappointed. But it's good to see they're getting business. Alright, so I'm going to be quiet for a little bit here just to let you take in the ambiance of the mall. So now that you've seen the mall, what do you think of it? Again, just looking at it, to me, it looks like a dead or a dying mall at the very least. But, again, according to the owner of the mall, they are working to revitalize it, and they have added a bunch of new businesses over the last year or two, so hopefully it'll turn around. But I would say it's still, at this point, not looking great. But, of course, let me know what you think about that in the comments. But don't go anywhere yet. Next, we're going to do a drive around to the mall and see what it looks like from the outside. Up above where that glass window is today, that's where the food court used to be. And today it's that gravity vault rock climbing place. This is where I entered the mall. And before like 2020 or so, there was no entrance there. This used to be the Nordstrom rack. And the entrance to the Nordstrom rack used to be right here on this corner. And yeah, that car pulled right out in front of me. Didn't even look at me. Here's the P.F. Chang's, which is closed. And to the right of it, where they have the Leonardo furniture today, that's where Old Navy used to be. And where this new entrance is, that says Samanea, that used to say David's Bridal, so I'm not sure if that was an entrance to the mall or if that was the entrance to David's Bridal. And then the road was closed off straight ahead, but that is the Fortunoff building there on the left. And I had to do some driving around in circles to get to it, but we'll get back to that in a second. So there it is from the main roadway. That is the old Fortunoff building. And that is what on one of the maps to the mall says is residential. So again, I don't know if they're actually going to go ahead with putting anything in there as far as residential goes, or if that was an old plan that got scrapped. Because again, when I go to their website today, I don't see any reference to residential on there. Alright, so I made it past the construction and we are back to the end of the mall with the Fortunoff building. And here it is. This is where Fortunoff used to be. And as far as I know, that building has been vacant since 2009. And from the outside, it's not looking great. And this looks really bad. These glass blocks here are all smashed out. And obviously somebody smashed the doors at one point. Just past this pillar, there's a label scar where you can still read Fortunoff. And there you have it. That is Samanea Mall, formerly known as the Mall at the Source in Westbury, New York. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell. I've got a lot more mall videos coming up. And again, if you want to really help support the channel, please check out my Patreon, also called Flea Bitten Adventures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.